Paper keys to burning kingdoms. Knowing too little can hurt you, knowing too much can kill you. Paper Keys to Burning Kingdoms is a novel set in two of the major cities of the world, Toronto and Seoul, and it is also about some of the most major themes affecting, some might say afflicting, the modern world. The rise of surveillance technology, the geopolitical games played between superpowers, and the tendency of the, quote, post-industrial economy, end quote, with its emphasis on multitasking and constantly underlying threat of losing one's job to increase individual stress. Paper Keys to Burning Kingdoms begins with a mystery. In Toronto, Larry Kudowski has just been in a terrible accident. His recently divorced wife, Kyung-ja, still close to Larry and also hoping to find out more about a, quote, hidden treasure, end quote, he cryptically mentioned, phones her older brother in Seoul, Dae-yu. Dae-yu listens to Kyung-ja's panicky demand that he, quote, hop on a plane, end quote, and help her immediately. When he tells her he can't because he already has work responsibilities, she scoffs at him and says his current employment isn't a, quote, real job, end quote. This stings Dae-yu because deep down he is of the same opinion. A student who was top of his class in journalism, he experienced a nervous breakdown in his senior year and still hasn't completed his university degree. He works as a security guard in a car park. Dae-yu pleads poverty. Quote, how can I possibly afford a trip to Canada? I can barely afford a KTX ticket, let alone a transcontinental flight, end quote. Borrow some money from Mom, Kyung-ja says, continuing, I need you here. You're the real native speaker in the family. Dae-yu understands what she means. For several years, Dae-yu, his family's eldest son, has been shipped off to Canada to study in high school and master English. Dae-yu speaks with remarkable fluency, one more mark against him in his family eyes, given how little he has succeeded in life. So Dae-yu arranges a meeting with his demanding, imperious mother and scrounges money for a flight ticket. Arriving in Toronto, Dae-yu, Dave, to his Canadian acquaintances and friends, finds a scene of utter chaos. Larry is in a coma and on the verge of death. Kyung-ja keeps insisting Larry had a hidden treasure and that he, furthermore, promised it to her as a form of bequest. Open quote. But all he had was a storage locker full of paper, Larry's friend Scott says. Then search the locker, Kyung-ja insists, delegating Dae-yu to the task. As Dae-yu sifts through Larry's papers, he finds a tightly sealed manila envelope lettered SIG-inked, Docs 1. Dae-yu opens it. Inside is what looks like nothing but photocopies of a series of aged telegraph papers, half-torn notes in Korean, other U.S. documents in an abbreviated military-style English. Dae-yu isn't sure what to make of this. He talks to Scott, who tells him about Larry's various obsessions. It turns out Larry was a polymath, but also deeply unstable. He kept moving from subject to subject, obsessional interest to obsessional interest. It also turns out that he confided to Scott that his, quote, most important research, end quote, was still in Korea with an old teaching buddy of his, Dylan. When Dae-yu unwisely tells Kyung-ja all this, she flies into a state and insists he go back to Korea to find it. Larry told me he was working on a book, Kyung-ja says. He said it would be, how do you say, mega bestseller. That book must be his treasure. Dae-yu refuses to listen to Kyung-ja at first and mopes around Toronto, recalling all of his memories of its tree-lined streets, its, relative to Seoul, small-town feel. He calls a couple of old girlfriends. One hangs up on him. The other hangs out with him. Then Kyung-ja tells Dae-yu that she has urgent news for him. Dylan has just emailed her and told her that the hidden treasure is not at his house after all, but at the house of a young Korean academic named Jin-ha-yoon. Dae-yu phones Dylan. Dylan has no idea of what Jin-ha has done with Larry's manuscript. Maybe she'll trash it, Dylan says with a drinker's rasping mirth. Kyung-ja becomes hysterical and effectively forces Dae-yu back to Korea. It is there that Dae-yu meets Jin-ha. She is a thin young woman with an initially spectral manner. Larry knew too much, she tells Dae-yu. This situation isn't what you think. The novel then flashes back in time to Larry's first years in Korea, his meetings his meeting with Kyungjia, their passionate first months followed by a relationship of considerable tempestuousness and flight to Canada, and Larry's increasing knowledge of some of the secrets that Korean history holds. This middle section of the novel is a story unto itself, depicting in detail the progress and sometimes ecstatic, sometimes unstable vagaries of Larry and Kyungjia's love. A central section traces them from their first meeting in Korea to tentative yet besotted first days to marriage to emotional roller coaster in Canada. This section also shows Larry's growing mixture of insight and obsessiveness as Larry slowly realizes that South Korea is a land with as many geopolitical secrets involving national intelligence agencies and deeply hidden secrets. The novel concludes in the present day, functioning both as a love story between Dae-yu and the highly intelligent, highly sensitive, but also highly damaged Jin-ha, and as a mystery needing to be solved. With Jin-ha, Dae-yu becomes involved in a very complex triangle with an acquaintance of hers, the super-intelligent and super-high-strung Fulton Fairchild III, the son and grandson of American military and intelligence officials. It is through Fairchild that Dae-yu really starts to see what he is up against, and the layers of Larry's insights are slowly pulled back. Finally, the novel works on several levels. It is intellectually engaging, and it is emotionally affecting. As we learn more about Larry's relationship with Kyungjia and Dae-yu's with both Jin-ha and Fulton Fairchild, we see the degree to which these are people who truly love each other, and the pangs of need they feel are palpable. It also is a work that combines the compelling quality of an intellectually inclined murder mystery with literary writing and a literary concern with psychological authenticity. It is a manuscript that critics will pay attention to and book buyers buy.